The rain had been falling quietly for hours. Inside a small home at the edge of town, Daniel sat alone at the kitchen table. A single yellow lamp cast a warm circle of light over a pile of papers spread across the wood. Bills, receipts, numbers that did not seem to add up. Daniel rubbed his eyes slowly and leaned back in the chair. He had been staring at those papers for nearly 2 hours, hoping that somehow the numbers would magically change. But they never did. From the hallway, a soft voice spoke. Still awake. It was his wife, Sarah. She stepped into the kitchen holding 2 cups of tea. Her voice was calm, but Daniel could hear the quiet concern behind it. He nodded slowly. Just finishing something. Sarah placed a cup beside him and sat down across the table. She glanced at the papers, but didn't say anything right away. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Finally, she asked gently, "Is it bad?" Daniel hesitated. Then he sighed. "Worse than I thought." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of rain tapping softly on the windows filled the silence. "Work cut my hours again," Daniel said quietly. "And the car repair took more than we expected." Sarah listened carefully. "What about the savings?" Daniel looked down at the table. "There isn't much left." Another long silence settled between them. But Sarah did not panic. She simply reached across the table and placed her hand on Daniel's. "We'll figure it out," she said softly. Daniel gave a tired smile. "That's what I keep telling myself." From the hallway came the faint sound of a child turning in their sleep. Daniel glanced toward the bedroom door. "Our kids think everything is fine," he said. Sarah followed his gaze. "They should." Daniel nodded slowly. "I just wish I felt as confident as they do." The next morning, sunlight pushed gently through the curtains as the house woke up. Daniel stood in the kitchen pouring cereal while his 2 children rushed around the room preparing for school. Emma, the older one, was talking excitedly about a school project. Her younger brother Noah tried to tie his shoes while asking endless questions about dinosaurs. The noise, the laughter, the little chaos of the morning filled the room with life. For a moment, Daniel forgot about the bills. He simply watched them. Emma suddenly noticed him smiling. "What?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Nothing." But Sarah knew exactly what he was thinking. Later, after the kids left for school, Daniel grabbed his jacket to head to work. At the door, Sarah stopped him. "Daniel." He turned. "Don't carry this alone," she said. Daniel nodded. "I know." But deep inside, he wasn't sure. A hard day. Work that day felt longer than usual. Daniel worked at a small construction company, and lately projects had slowed down. During lunch break, he sat alone on a wooden beam, eating a sandwich. Across the site, another worker complained about rising prices and shrinking paychecks. Daniel listened quietly. He wasn't the only one struggling, but that didn't make his own worries disappear. Later that afternoon, as Daniel packed his tools, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Emma. "Dad, are you coming to my presentation tomorrow?" Daniel froze. He had completely forgotten. She had been preparing that project for weeks. He typed back quickly, "Of course." But inside, something twisted. Tomorrow meant leaving work early. Leaving work early meant losing pay. And losing pay was exactly the problem. The turning point. That evening, Daniel sat on the porch alone. The sky glowed orange as the sun disappeared behind the trees. Sarah joined him quietly. "You're thinking again," she said. Daniel gave a small laugh. "Is it that obvious?" She nodded. "What is it this time?" Daniel stared at the street. "Emma's presentation tomorrow." Sarah smiled. "She's excited." "I know. But..." Daniel sighed. "If I leave work early, we lose money." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something simple. "Daniel, listen to me." He turned. "Money is important," she said. "But moments are irreplaceable." Daniel didn't respond. Sarah continued. 10 years from now, Emma will not remember whether we paid a bill on time." She paused. but she will remember if her father was there. Those words stayed in the air between them. Daniel slowly leaned back in the chair. For the first time that week, his shoulders relaxed. "You're right," he said quietly. The next day, the classroom buzzed with excited parents and students. Daniel slipped into the back row just as Emma stepped forward to present her project. Her eyes scanned the room. When she saw him, her face lit up instantly. In that moment, Daniel felt something shift inside him. All the stress, all the worry, all the pressure of numbers and bills. For a few seconds, it all faded away. Emma spoke confidently about her project while pointing to colorful charts. At the end, the teacher smiled proudly. The room applauded. Emma ran straight to Daniel. "You came." Daniel laughed and hugged her. "Of course I came." A quiet realization. That evening, the family sat together eating dinner. Emma talked nonstop about the presentation. Noah attempted to recreate dinosaur sounds with impressive enthusiasm. Sarah watched the scene with a quiet smile. Daniel suddenly realized something important. He had spent weeks believing their family was fragile. That one financial problem could break everything. But sitting there, surrounded by laughter, he saw the truth. Their family wasn't fragile. It was strong. Not because life was easy, but because they faced it together. A new decision. Later that night, Daniel opened his laptop. Instead of staring at bills, he began researching something he had thought about for years. Starting a small weekend woodworking business. He didn't know if it would succeed, but for the first time in weeks, he felt hopeful. Sarah noticed the change. "You look different tonight," she said. Daniel smiled. "I stopped trying to solve everything at once. And I'm starting with one small step." Sarah nodded approvingly. "Sometimes that's all it takes." The message. Life didn't magically become easy after that night. There were still challenges, still bills, still uncertain moments. But something important had changed. Daniel no longer felt like he was carrying the weight alone. He realized that success wasn't only measured by money. It was measured by presence, by courage, by choosing family over fear. Years later, Emma would not remember the bills on the table, but she would remember something else. The day her father walked into the classroom, the moment he chose to be there. And sometimes, the smallest decisions create the strongest families.